Today I'm going to take you on my favourite local walk. So stop scrolling, sit back and come on a lovely, calming virtual walk with me through the woodland. And I'm going to make a really bold bet and say that by the time you've come to the end of this video in 10 minutes, you will want to go out for a walk. And this is the walk that got me passionate about going out and exploring my local area on foot, and I'm going to tell you the story behind that. But let's just have a little peek at the woodland there. We're going to walk down there in a minute. But first of all, I'm going to show you just how close this woodland is to where I live. Now we're just going to go down this little path, and I'm going to turn the camera around, and there you can see that building in the background. That's where I live. So I've come out of that building, I've gone through a little alleyway, and I'm in the woodland within 2 minutes. And I'm very, very lucky to have this right on my doorstep. Even though I've lived in this part of Essex for nearly 20 years, I only discovered this woodland about 4.5 years ago. Now, I'm 60 this year, and if there's one thing I've learnt in life, it's that sometimes a lot of things can conspire together, then come together to lead you on a different journey. And that's what happened with me 4 years ago. In 2019, I'd had some health problems, which meant that I needed to take some time out from my job. But I'd been working in the photography industry for about 15 years, and I was getting to the point where I needed a big change in my life. I was working for myself, I was doing a lot of travelling for work, and I wasn't at home a lot, and I just felt I wanted to slow down because I was feeling it, and my health problems made me actually do that. I had to slow down and stop and take stock of my life. And it was a really scary time because I was in my sort of mid to late 50s, and you know, I suddenly found myself thinking, where do I go from here? And I wasn't happy in my job. I knew I wanted to change, and also these health problems kind of made it a priority for me. And then in 2020, of course, we had COVID. Health concerns became even more of a concern, and there I was, stuck indoors with my partner. Well, my partner was out at work, but I was the one that didn't have any job, and I was stuck at home anyway. And the biggest thing was I knew I needed to get fit, and I needed to do some exercise. And I'm not the sort of person that really enjoys going to the gym, lifting weights, or doing things like heavy aerobics. So when we were in the lockdowns and we were allowed to go out for a walk once a day, I decided that that's what I was going to do. And I also decided that I wanted to raise some money for charity whilst I was doing it. And Refuge, the charity that supports women and children who are escaping from domestic violence and abuse, was doing a 62-mile walking challenge. The aim was to walk 62 miles in the month of August and raise money for Refuge. And for me, this was a really good way of motivating myself to actually go out and walk at least 2 miles every day for a month. And that, to me, as a newbie to walking, seemed like a really good and easy challenge to do. So on the very first day of my walking challenge on the 1st of August 2020, I decided to walk through this woodland. And in doing so, it's taken me on an absolutely amazing journey of discovery. I discovered some fascinating local history, and I discovered a lot about myself. So stick with me as we go down this muddy path, and I hope you're enjoying the walk and the talk with Grandma today. So, as I said, I'm not really an athletic or a sporty person. Not now. I used to be when I was a lot younger, but as I said, I'm nearly 60, and I hadn't really done any proper exercise for at least 20 years. But I pulled my trainers on, I put my charity fundraising t-shirt on, and I got out there and I walked through this woodland. And I did my first 2 miles, and I ached and it was hard, but I did it. And the things that I discovered on that walk to do with my local history have been something that's fascinated me now for the last 4 years. And I'm going to tell you about that a little bit later on. So stick with me and keep walking through this woodland. So on each day when I went out on my charity walking challenge, I pushed myself a little bit further and harder. And each day I would maybe do 2 miles, 3 miles. But then by the end of the first week, I was doing walks of 5 miles, 6 miles. And as the whole month progressed, I ended up pushing myself to do something like a 7 or 8k walk, which for me, in the space of 3 to 4 weeks, was absolutely amazing. The effects on my physical health were brilliant too, because my back didn't ache as much. I felt fitter, stronger, I had more energy, I slept better at night. I started to feel more toned, and as I pushed myself to walk further and further, I felt fitter and fitter physically. But I also noticed another effect, and that was the effect that it had on my mental health. I began to view this place as my happy place, because when I came here and I walked through here, I felt really happy. So whenever I felt frustrated, angry, or just cooped up in my flat, I would come out to the woodland, and within 2 minutes I would literally stand at the entrance to the woodland. I would take a deep breath and I would just exhale, and all that stress and worry would dissipate as I walked through the forest. And I found the walking time in the woodland was also very therapeutic, because I could either use that time while I was walking to sort out thoughts in my head, things I was worrying about, things I wanted some clarity on. And as I was walking, those kind of, like, I'd be thinking about things, and that would just all sort of fall into place, and I'd get some clarity on things that maybe were worrying me. Or on the other hand, I could just literally shut off and just not think about anything to do with life, home, work. I could just focus on the light, the sunlight, the breeze on my face, the smell of the earth, the sound of the trees in the breeze, and I could just literally shut off from all my stress and anxiety and just enjoy being in the present and in the now, walking through nature. And I realised that really had a lot to do with my childhood. And I think that as we age and we start to desire a quieter, slower life, we actually revert back to doing a lot of things that we found pleasure from when we were children. And as we age, I think it's really important, because we have more time to be able to give to those things. So as I went on doing my charity walk throughout the month, I realised what I needed to do and change in my life. And getting outdoors was a really big thing, because I was a Girl Guide when I was younger, and I used to go on lots of camping trips, and my dad was a camping aficionado. So I spent most of my childhood outdoors, in forests, camping under the canvas in the stars, and I realised that's what I missed in my life, was being outdoors. And since then, I've done a charity walk every year for Refuge. I also do charity walks for pancreatic cancer. And my personal best for walking is actually something around 15k or maybe 8 miles. So I can do an 8 to 10 mile walk now, and I could only walk 2 miles 4 years ago. And now I'm out there doing walks regularly of 10k. So it just goes to show what you can do when you put your mind to it. And going on these walks through the woodland made me wonder what was here before in history. And you can see a building coming up now at the end of this path, and we're nearly at the end of this bit of the walk. So join me in the next video and I'll explain the history of this building. But hopefully you're going to go out and have a walk first, and maybe come back and watch that video in part 2, because I think I've convinced you how amazing walking can be for you. So just get out there and have a walk, and I'll join you